Recreation Commission, 6 p.m., January 18th. And roll call, it looks like we're just missing Kimmy tonight.
Correct.
And then approval of the agenda. Do we have an approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the form of the agenda.
I second.
And then we need an approval of the minutes for November 16th.
Move to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
All right, and now we're on to new business, the 2023 Parks and Recreation Commission goal setting.
All right. Well, welcome, everybody. Happy New Year. It's hard to believe it's 2023 already, but I always enjoy these first two meetings of the year because just setting the goals, reviewing what we did, and kind of setting the tone for the rest of the year is always fun for me to hear what you all come up with. And my goal, or my role tonight, would be just to read over. I'll review the goals from last year, and if I could have the computer, if you could put those up on the screen, that would be great. We'll just kind of review the rules from last year, or not rules, sorry, goals, and then kind of turn it over to discussion. And it's really kind of, you know, up to you. Let's see if I can maybe make this in a different view here. There we go. To talk about the goals for the upcoming year. And one comment I did want to make is just as a suggestion to throw out there, you know, we've always been really good at setting goals for talking about programming and, you know, projects and things. But one thing that I've noticed maybe last year we haven't discussed as much as environmental stewardship. And, you know, this year, you know, they've added a strategic goal for the city council for, you know, an environmental goal for the strategic plan as far as making sure we're following up on environmental initiatives and with our climate adaptation plan and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to throw out there that maybe there could be some discussion of maybe goals around that. And I was just going to read from the master plan just what we say in there about promoting environmental stewardship. And it just states that Maplewood is known for leadership in environmental stewardship. Continuing education, demonstration, and access to high-quality natural areas will continue to be a defining feature of the city and underpin all parks and recreation decision-making. The Parks and Recreation Department will preserve quality natural resources, provide access to natural resources so residents can enjoy and learn about nature, increase native plant diversity to create healthy habitats, and encourage sustainable design and maintenance on public and private property. So that's just a little bit, you know, from the master plan just to kind of set the tone. So I just would throw that out there that maybe we could look at goals pertaining to that. But I will dive right in. You should have it on your screen, and you have it in your packet too. But the goals from last year for 2022, the Parks and Recreation Commission identified the following goals and made a point to tie them to the strategic priorities created by the City Council. The PRC acknowledges that successful completion of these goals may be affected by budgetary constraints and the state of COVID-19 pandemic. And that was on our minds last year. And the first goal was to continue to implement the outcomes of the Parks and Recreation System Master Plan and stay on top of park improvement plans. The second one was to continue to find new ways to engage the residents of Maplewood in community processes, offer special events and programming at a variety of parks and make arts and culture a priority, ensure we meet the programming needs of the actively aging community and offer inclusive wellness-based activities in our parks, hold a meeting dedicated to review the implementation progress of the Nature Center and Programming Task Force recommendations and receive regular updates as well, value the youth perspective, recruit, appoint a student PRC member, receive quarterly updates from the MCC YMCA, as well as updates from community groups and partners to look for ways that we can work together, hold a meeting dedicated to connectivity and trails, explore the idea of consistent signage that utilizes technology in our parks, and then explore the idea of offering recreation programming in the future through the Parks and Natural Resources Department. So with those goals, hopefully you've read through those and maybe have some ideas to share. And with that, Chair, I'll turn it over to you and the Commission for discussion, and I will take notes, and we'll go from there.
I'm wondering if number 8, if we could include the environmental in something right around in that area, because that's talking about the connectivity of trails and everything and all the environmental, somehow, I don't know.
Maybe a different, maybe a unique line for that, because I mean, having a hard time connecting those connectivity and trails to,
Environmental. I'm
Environmental. I
thinking
mean, I
of,
get
yeah,
that they're
trying to
kind of
save,
related, but-
save the trails and the parks to keep the environmental, the animals, the plants and all that, the bees and all.
I would agree with Craig on that we need a separate line item. I see number 8 as being more working in cooperation with maybe Ramsey County in terms of, how do our trails interconnect with the trails that they have, say through Battle Creek Park? What type of access do we have from our parks to their parks? And being able to make sure that we're offering plenty of opportunities for bicycle people, walkers, et cetera, to be able to get access from the smaller neighborhood parks into the bigger parks, and then even on a broader sense into St. Paul, how it connects into their parks and the metro-wide trail
Okay.
connectivity. That's how I see
So
number
work
8.
more with Ramsey County on number 8 is what we're talking about then. Change that to more,
Correct.
okay.
Well, I kind of like the broad sort of view that we had from the presenter last time. And I think maybe if we change the language, instead of hold a meeting, maybe it's something broader than just holding a meeting. Maybe something that's.
Explore ideas or
I don't
work
know.
work with Ramsey County?
Yeah, or like stay updated, or I don't know what, collaborate. Just throwing out words now, but.
it's not just Ramsey County, though. We
Yeah.
need to look at Woodbury, we need to look at how we interact
And
with all of our neighbors.
other neighbors.
It's St. Paul, it's Woodbury, it's
Other-
Ramsey County, it's,
Little Canada.
yeah.
So like our fellow neighbors or,
I was, and this was back right when I first came on the commission. I was in Battle Creek Park one day, and they had a whole team of individuals in the park, and they had like 7 or 8 different boards, and they were looking at how, just new signage for their trails. How did it look? What were the different aspects that they were talking about? And one of their key elements there, because I stopped and talked with them,
Yeah.
was, how do we show the residents how these connect to other parks? Because they're dealing specifically with Battle Creek Park in this endeavor, but it was all about the signage and how to communicate with people. And one of the things they were looking at were QR codes in order to be able to scan there on the signs. What can we do? How can we connect? How can we get people information and all that? And that's how I kind of see all of this
So maybe
coming
like-
together. And again, agree totally with Craig. We're in the middle of a whole bunch of communities here, and what are we doing to actively have open discussions with these people?
So do we-
And collaborate, as you say, what are we doing in
so
order
like
to?
include our neighbors, have more of a neighborhood meeting or
Yeah.
get our neighbors' input more on what we want to see for this.
Chair, members of the commission, just from hearing what you're saying, one way to perhaps do that is, we invite community groups, whatever, but maybe inviting, someone from Ramsey County and other entities to come to the meeting to talk about trails and maybe upcoming projects that they're doing and how they would tie in. It could be a matter of having them come speak to the group. That could be
Yeah,
one way to.
So maybe have them come speak to us and then we reach out to the neighbors, our fellow neighbors and see what they want, get a board and put up and see what interests them.
Agreed.
All in favor of something like that? Does that
I'm
sound
in.
good? Okay, so number 8, we want to work with Ramsey County and fellow neighboring cities and to get idea, or to understand the connectivity. And then, communities, okay, communities.
And it wouldn't, it wouldn't necessarily have to be one meeting, but it could be,
Yeah.
investigating who might want to come and talk to the group and be part of, several meetings. They could be a guest, speaker to invite, because we've invited all the watershed and different groups to come talk if there's, identified groups that could come talk about, because I think Little Canada could be a good choice because we do have some trails. We have a boardwalk that's aging that connects us to Little Canada, and Little Canada currently now maintains one half of it, and it's kind of a no man's, like, where it ends and starts, but it's reaching the end of its useful life, and so we're going to have to put that in the CIP, and I've talked to the director of parks in Little Canada about we've got to get serious about this because it's used. We have students that walk across there. Mom told me her kids walk across from Maplewood over because they go to the school on the other, and they use that trail to get to school. They walk over to Little Canada. So just things like that where we can maybe have more of a widespread look at, and I'd be happy to research what groups would be best to bring, and then we can talk about that and then invite them to come to a meeting. And
I was gonna ask, for that point, would we want to have like maybe a subsection of that goal to be like to visit maybe 2 locations per year, like have an off-site meeting in terms of being able to get a little bit more familiar with that area, or maybe have one of you guys take some pictures of
Sure.
maybe proposed places for that connectivity?
yeah, just to have off-site meetings can be a little tricky because we televise them, but you could also create committees. You know, we could talk about creating like subcommittees that would do some research and do that very thing and bring back information to the group.
Okay.
You know, we've done that before when we looked into the idea of a dog park in certain places. There was a subcommittee that was formed, and so that's something we can do, absolutely. Just not having the meeting off-site, probably not, just because they need to be recorded, and that gets a little tricky.
He was able to meet offsite and we recorded it when I was on, well, we were at the firehouse, I don't know if anybody.
Right, but she was talking more like off-site, taking pictures of trails and things, and that would be probably a little trickier, but.
I know in the past we've had, and we didn't have it on here now because of COVID, and maybe we could do that more with the, we did a tour to see where what all the parks and what we've done. Maybe when we did our tour, we could actually stop at a couple of these trails and see what
Maybe
the,
we
Yeah,
could-
that's kind of what I was thinking.
yeah, so do our parks tour this year, but include trails also.
Yeah, chair members of the commission, that's perfect, and then we can invite people to go on the tour with us, because we've done that before,
Yeah.
where we've had council members and other people, and we get on the bus and we go on our tour, so maybe that would be the way to accomplish that,
Okay.
if the group is interested, so.
Park and trail tour.
And again, we don't have to do the goals exactly like this, just to tweak the ones we have. It's up to, I mean, we could, you guys could start over if you've got enough new goals or different. It doesn't, this is just how we've done it, and it's worked out pretty well because you all set really good goals the last few years, so just tweaks have been available. But I know we did take the bus tour off because, like you said, of COVID.
COVID.
That could be something to be added back in.
No, I think we have a pretty good comprehensive list here. Some of them we've accomplished this year, others, we've come close, and others we have done absolutely nothing on. So I think that as we look forward and we can tweak a few of them here, I think what we talked about with number 8 is really good. But I think there's some that getting a youth member on the council, I think, is a good thing. We really haven't done anything to do that. But if we look at what we have here, I mean, I think we can continue to move this forward. And if we can focus on getting this accomplished, we'll have accomplished something.
I do have one comment just throw out there. I'm just gonna, for facilitation, maybe to look at 2, goal number 2, because it is so broad and it's kind of vague. Maybe we could narrow that down a little bit, exactly what that means. I would throw that out for discussion for you, just because I'm not exactly sure what that means, and so.
Well, I was gonna potentially ask the group if maybe we want to focus that on maybe our new goal, like maybe we could have kind of more like a open house discussion in terms of like what the community would want in terms of like environmental goals or like projects or something like that. So I was just wondering if maybe it would help to just try to focus how we could make it a little bit more specific how we're going to bring the community in.
Sure. And one option also is Sean Finwell is our environmental planner, and she has not come to the Parks Commission in quite a while, but she is the one that was working on putting together the climate adaptation plan with our consultant, and now is climate mitigation and implementation of this plan. So that's why I was thinking environmentally, if we wanted to focus some of our attention on the environmental initiatives of the city, it could be a goal to have Sean maybe come and talk to the commission, and then, through that discussion, maybe, we could take it from there. So if we're not really sure what we want to focus on, it doesn't necessarily have to be a goal. She could come regardless, but working with our natural resources coordinator and our environmental planner and myself, and just come and I don't know if any of you would be interested in examining the climate adaptation plan a little bit more, and, just throwing it out there as ideas for.
Excellent idea.
So just how we would word, because we kind of now have talked about number 8, when we started about the environmental issues, we kind of went to 8, and then we talked about, like, Mark, your talking about the trails, well, that still ties to the consistent signage and utilizing the technology for signage. That was kind of that one. And then 2, Monica, you were kind of saying how we could make that more specific and tie it to environmental issues. So just trying to firm those up maybe, or take one out and word it differently, or whatever you'd like to do. So I'll quit talking.
2 and 3 are almost a little bit the same. I mean, trying to get the residents engaged with our special events. I hope we can I mean, the ones we had last year were amazing. I would hope we could add a few more, because that seems to bring a lot of people out in Maplewood. And
Sure. Yeah, I
So-
guess my question is, when I read that, is which community processes are we talking about? It's just so vague. It's a hard goal
It's so
to.
vague. Both of them are.
So maybe take that one and tweak it with some of the new ideas, or maybe that would be a good place maybe to.
Yeah, I think 2 and 3 need to be
Combined.
combined and worded in such a way that it's an accomplishable goal, that it's something that you can get your hands around. As it is, it's like, I don't know how you ever, what does that mean? But I also think that I think we should look at this list every meeting, because there are things on this that we just never even got to or never even thought about. I think it'd be a good idea to just say, okay, we're going to we're going to do some of these things every meeting, and we should pick one for the next meeting, because a lot of times they just kind of slide, and then we do this every year, and then we look at it and go, oh, yeah, I forgot about that one,
Would it be helpful if we cut down on the number of goals? That way we can maybe take more action on some high priority ones, I don't know.
It is a lengthy I mean, it is quite a list. Yeah.
That was exactly going to be my next comment, is that we've got a lot here. We could take 2 and 3, we could combine them
I
together.
know.
We could take 8 and 9, combine them together. And within 2 and 3, we could make, the environmental challenge that we have is just, how are we going to support and drive forward the city's environmental process, whatever. And then, but I also agree with Craig. We need to be looking at these every month. Do we take each item and look at it and like, where do we stand here? What's our next initiative? What's going to be the next process? Or what are we doing today to accomplish these goals? Because we've got a lot here, and I think if we concentrate it, we can get more accomplished.
I think we could maybe combine 7 and 10 somehow together too, trying to figure out, what we,
I also think we should prioritize.
yeah.
So you say, these are the things that we're going to do.
We're gonna do.
We're going to do
Do.
these, and these are the ones that are the most important things that we should, this is going to be in February's meeting,
We should also
And-
look at some of the things that maybe aren't such huge undertakings, and maybe check those off the list to, just to have some sort of a sense of accomplishment, so we're not looking at an identical list a year from now. I think number 6 wouldn't take that much work.
And we've had that
To
before
make
in the
that,
past.
yeah.
We just
And then we could
quit
just
during
check that
COVID.
off and-
Yeah, Chair, members of the commission, we did, because we've appointed before and we've advertised for, and I did behind the scenes try to recruit like we had with our past member, and almost had someone, but then they backed out. So I think this year would have to be just coming up with a process where we put it out onto social media or whatever, and to say if you're interested, whatever, and then reach out to the schools and just say, this is what we're looking for, and then see who we get to apply for it. So I've seen that seems to be typically the cities that I have seen that have done it, just to see if, and come up with a process for what we're looking for, and that's something we could do nail down that process in like February and then just get it out there and see who is interested, but we'd have to set, guidelines of what age we're looking for, and, and it wouldn't be hard to do it all. It just, we had some candidates that we thought were good, and behind the scenes, I did reach out to them and thought we had someone, and it just didn't fit their schedule, because they're so busy. The good candidates are always so busy with all their activities, so.
Hit the National Honor Society, because at least when my daughter was going to school, they have to have certain community things, so, that would be one that I think would be a good place to hit. I still think, number 9, I don't see intermingling with 8. Those are two, those are pretty different, in my opinion, and, connectivity is such a huge, that's a pretty big thing, and the signage is, I like that one because it's a very concise, more achievable item. If you commingle too much, then it's going to be hard to say, yeah, we did that or we didn't do that.
And Chair, members of the commission, if I can add, I know these are goals that the commission wants to weigh in, and we do, but then there are also things that staff are, accomplishing. So it's kind of, and I feel like you're probably frustrated, like, well, is this something we can do? But that's where we're looking for the guidance for what you think is the most important, and then staff has to try to implement and bring these things to you. And last year, and I should have brought the list, I brought the final product that went out, but you did ask us to, the group did want to prioritize between short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals, and we did color code those for the meeting when we were setting the goals, and so I can bring that again for the February meeting, because we'll finish up after we come back and vote on them at the February meeting, but before that, I can send them to you in an email. I'm making a note to myself of how you prioritized them last year, just because you did want to kind of say they were a short-term, mid-term, long range.
Could 4 be in what 2 and 3, do you think? Don't you think that could kind of,
All of those.
2, 3, and 4 are similar.
yeah, we could
Yeah,
maybe
and-
make it all one.
And I remember when that goal was set, it's been on here for quite a few years, but that was back when we were still actively doing in-house programming. When Dorothy, so that was a really important one to Dorothy. So some of these goals are going to change a little bit, because we're working with other groups to provide recreation other than the community outreach events. So
So that one could either go with 2, 3, and 4, or you could put it in with the one with the YMCA, and because that's where.
number 5 too, because like when Neil came and gave the update of what we were able to do to get outside groups, but it's not as easy as staff saying, well, we're going to offer pickleball classes in-house, because we're not doing active recreation anymore, so. But that was a goal that was left over from when it doesn't mean we can't look for people to come in and make sure that need is met and try to get outside sources to, and, like adding pickleball courts to the Harvest Park plan, that's a way to meet the needs. It may not be direct programming, but I know that's when that one came out, because Dorothy was really passionate about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's calling out like a very specific group. Is there a reason that would want to keep that, or say something more general, I guess?
And I do know when it was said, we talked about all the other ages, but that particular commissioner didn't want the actively aging to be forgotten, so it was important enough, so we called it out as a goal.
Okay.
So like if you put on 2, to engage residents of all ages, and then take 4 out.
I would, yeah, you combine them together like that, and then I think we're covered.
And we could take that one out.
Just make sure we
Go ahead.
actually focus on all ages, so the original intent of number, whatever it is,
2,
4,
4.
doesn't get lost in the
Yeah.
shuffle.
I see those kind of things as overarching things that we need to keep in mind, but as a goal, what specific thing are you gonna do to achieve that? That's my question with a lot of these that are just so, they're ambiguous and they're just hard to pin down. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to have something where you can say, yes, we did this. And what are you gonna do to say, yes, we did that?
Kind of like the number one, we have a plan and we check and make sure that we've done that in our plan. And we go back.
That, or like
and-
number 8, when you
Yeah.
we held a meeting. So yeah, for things that the commission can, if you want it to be a goal that you're actually, it could be having a meeting with this, that's a great idea, or making sure we discuss this in the coming year, make this a priority, that kind of thing might be a little easier than you, like I said, these are all great ideas and initiatives for the department, but if you want more measurable goals, maybe making them a little bit more tied to what the commission can help with or assist, or make sure you talk to staff about, we want to see this, we want to hear about this kind of thing. It's another tack. There's no wrong way to do it, but speaking to what Craig said, that might be something to try.
Well, do we all agree number one should stay the same? I mean, we have to keep that one. I think we have to make sure we review that every year.
Yeah,
to make
I think we need to have a thing that says we will review it
We will
and
re-
see what's on there, because you can have that as a line, but
We'll re-
I say we need to do a review of that,
review.
and then it's something that you
Review
can say,
of-
yes, we had a meeting, yes, we reviewed it,
I
now we
think-
all know what it says.
I
'Cause there are a
think-
lot of people here that probably haven't seen that, or,
Where's review?
We're adding that.
We're-
To number one, we want to add.
Instead of continue to implement, it would be review.
Review.
well, yeah,
Review the outcomes of the Park and Recreation System Master Plan on top of park improvement plans regularly through the year.
well,
Something, in order to provide some type of measurable.
I think we should have one meetings that we talk about what it is, because I know there are people on this commission
That don't know what it is.
that haven't seen it.
Yeah,
Or
that
if
was-
they've seen it, they,
Forgot about it or don't.
Yeah.
I think we should, I don't know how you word it, but we should have a meeting where we talk about what it is, and everybody look at what items are on there.
I think you said it right there, is conduct a meeting focused on the Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Yes.
Hold a meeting to
Specifically.
to review them, yep, and
Yep.
that was actually going to be my idea if it wasn't brought up, was like, we have a lot of new commissioners, and like, let's get our hands on a copy, and then let's go through it and review it and see how it's changed since 2015, because it's been a while. Absolutely.
I think that's got to be like number one.
Yeah, that one,
Because
that
we
stays
have
number
this
one.
thing that's this is our guiding light, and, I don't see how we move forward without everybody kind of
Knowing
being
what we're
on
doing.
board with what that is and what it says.
I was going to ask Audra, so I know that you mentioned committees earlier. I don't know if it would make sense to you to go into explanation, kind of more of what that would look like in terms of like, maybe that could be a modality for achieving some of these goals, or if maybe that would make sense for the same meeting that we're doing the system master plan. We could include that as kind of a topic item to go over as well.
Sure. Chair, members of the commission, and typically when there had been a committee formed, it was for a very specific project and doing investigation into what's a feasibility study, if you will, of just going out and doing research on your own, then bringing it back to the group. So I guess those, to me, seem like they would be on a as-needed basis if we've got something that the group is passionate about, and then we would, address that. It doesn't happen very often. It hasn't, but it doesn't mean it can't.
So what do we have for one? I'd just like to have a nice, clear, this is
Sure.
what we're gonna do, number one. Hopefully, in my opinion, it's gotta be one of our highest priorities.
What I wrote down that I heard was hold a meeting to review the master plan, the park systems master plan. And then I did leave on the stay on top of park improvement plans as we're implementing CIP projects. I figure that's still valuable to hold on to that. And I think it can be one, but that's how I have it written If that,
Sounds good.
okay.
I like that.
Okay.
So we got one solid one.
And I'm just going to go back because this is great conversation. Sometimes we don't have a lot of conversation. This is great. But for 2 and 3, even though 2 is vague, they are still very different things because 3 is focusing on special events, the programming, and again, this goal was created when we were actively programming in-house, but the special events and the community outreach is still absolutely going on, so I don't know if we want to tweak that one.
Put something like, offer a number of events to engage members of all ages and cultures and commissioners to attend. I think we
Yeah,
should.
it's up to you.
I think we should push for us commissioners to start to go to some of these also.
Agreed. I think that's what we're supposed to be doing.
You're right. I think
So,
we-
That's-
Could we change that, the word offer though? I guess I'm not sure, as like us as a group, like, we're technically not putting on the event, so is there a better way to word it to?
well, like you said, Terry, to be actively involved in the community outreach events
Yep.
in the Parks and Natural Resources
Yep.
Department.
Yep. To be
I like that wording better.
actively involved. I
So
know-
Audra, can you read that back as to what we've got for
Sure.
that point now?
Yeah, for number 3, it would be that the Parks and Recreation Commission will be actively involved in the community outreach events offered by Parks and Natural Resources Department. And I think actively involved speaks to, being part of the events, volunteering, or reaching out to the community. If you want me to add more to that, we can.
I think that's perfect, because it
we
gives us it gives us something measurable. We can go
Yeah.
back and say, did we or did we not?
Do we want to engage all ages and culture in that, or do you want that a separate one?
Again, with the programming, we can put it in there, but we're not
We're not.
actively programming ourselves.
Okay.
Other than, so.
Okay.
That was kind of a
Okay.
throwback from before.
Okay. I know when we go to Touch a Truck, that's always a great event, and it'd be, I think, more fun to get involved in more of them. And with the summer and stuff, everybody can't do everyone, but
We were just talking about the egg hunt today.
that was
I know
awesome
you like
last year.
that one.
I think that we still need a nature center something. I'm not sure how to, I'm trying to think where they are. I know that you guys have moved there, the parks, some of you personally are there, but how do we want to say this? I mean,
Well, I think with Nature Center there, Craig, that was the name of the task forces, and that was what was put on us when they did the Nature Center and the programming task forces. We need to keep updating the commission and council, and so that, I think that's the way that one is, just the implementation of the task force recommendations, and then receive regular updates like at the meetings, but then we had the formal one of everything we've been able to do, and again, those task force implementation lists were quite long. I mean, again, they might be something to bring back to the group for new members who haven't seen them or been a part of it. And those were, the short-term, midterm, and the really long-range goals. And so we just kind of, when I've talked with Anil and myself, we've just decided to update on everything that we've been trying to do and make sure that you get those updates as well. So that was kind of why that goal.
So maybe what we should do is have this, I think this is quantifiable. We review what our goals for the nature center are and have an update for how, what we've accomplished since the last time we had a meeting.
So to review the,
Review the
and
goals.
it's a mouthful because it was 2 different task forces, but review the implementation progress of the task forces. Maybe we can just say, yeah. And then updates on, where we are.
Yep.
Do we have year-over-year data showing how many people visit the nature center, the different activities, the number of activities that are offered, participation in those activities and all that be quantifiable?
I think Neil did a pretty good job of updating, you know, as far as programs, and he gave you amount of people who were signed up for things. As far as tracking everybody who walks in and out the doors, no, we don't do that, you know. We have not, but, because it, you know, but I think, you know, anytime there's a new program offered or, you know, someone coming in or a new partner, you know, I try to give you updates at the end of the meeting, and then, like I said, he made sure to at least come once a year to just let you know, this is where we're at, but we have not counted people coming into the building. And again, when the program is not happening, people are coming in, but they're coming in to look around the lobby or the touch and see room or use the restrooms, and then they're out on the trails. So I don't know, I mean, we could maybe look at a trail cam or something like that down the road, but as far as actually counting the people, we have not done that.
Where do you stand on what you've got down for number 5? On your notes there.
To do a review of the task forces of, maybe, I'll probably spell them both out. The recommendations, because they're public knowledge. We can easily bring them and review them at a meeting like we would do the master plan. And, you know, continue to do the regular updates as well. And I think the annual update at the end of the year for where we are total is still important, but.
I guess my only question to that is, do we have a task force?
No, it'd be reviewing the
So we should strike task force in that.
No. What this says actually is it's the Nature Center and Programming Task Force recommendations. So we went through that whole process with both of them, and they came up with a formal set of recommendations, short, mid-range, and long-term goals for both the Nature Center Task Force and the programming one. And we have those documents now, and then it was turned over to our department to say, well, implement these the best you're able. This is what these task forces decided were important to try to implement, and so they exist. Those documents are there. So if you want to review those again
Then I think that needs to be a reviewable. We need to review what the task force brought
Yep.
forward.
And that's what I was saying, we're reviewing those recommendations and then updates. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
I think the MCC, having it quarterly is not realistic. I mean, we always have that, and we never do it. We're lucky if we get it yearly. You know, if you did it, I don't know, at least once a year is a bare minimum, we should have that kind of a meeting.
I remember we had this discussion last year, and we came down with the fact that if we put it in quarterly, we'd be happy if we at least got it at least once or twice a year. But if we had it set as quarterly, it would push us harder. That was my recollection of the conversation. But I agree with you, getting them all to come in every quarter isn't going to happen. But if we can get one of them to come in twice a year, then you've got it quarterly.
I want to have something that says, we're going to have it, and then you can say, we did it, rather than, yeah, we're going to have them come in once in a while, and.
Well, I do think, I agree with you that quarterly is a big ask, but if you want to be specific, you could say annual, or you could say twice a year, and we could see, I mean, Tara has been the executive director there now for a while, and she's great. She was really receptive. She was barely on staff, and she came to talk to the group, so kind of up to you if you think once a year is, but if you'd want it to be mid-year and not the end of the year, where it would happen in May or June, and have that be when they come, you could always.
I would be okay moving it to twice a year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's good, because sometimes we do get some updates from like Neil and other folks as well, so it doesn't have to be directly from the Y, I think, so.
Okay. So biannually, that's in my head, I'm like, is that a term? Right.
I still think 9 should be a standalone, because, I mean, it's very self-contained.
I'm okay with that.
And it's something that we can achieve, and it's something that we should do, because I think we should put QR codes. I see a lot of people go to the maps, they're Ramsey County maps, the bike trails say. It'd be nice to be able to put a QR code in there and be able to know where the connectivity is. So you can,
Sure.
you know where you are and you know how you can get around, because a lot of those things are not that easy.
As someone who rides a bike, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Can we talk about how, or what our group can do about that? Because it's not like we're gonna make the signage, right? So how does that happen? Like, is it working with Audra and team, or who actually does that?
Well, I think the initiative would need to come from this committee. And in terms of, what type of signage do we have in our parks? What do we have? And I think the first step is we have to review what we have out there. And then we have to make a recommendation as to what we would like it to look like, come up with some ideas. I'll be willing to bet you Ramsey County could help us with that, because they have all the work already done, because I've seen it. And then, then it's a process of implementation, of getting the technical people involved in, okay, here's what the sign needs to look like, here's who needs to make it, here's what's going to cost, and you work it through the budget process. That's my thought. Am I wrong?
No, that would,
So maybe explore the idea of consistent signage that utilizes technology in our parks and work with Ramsey County?
I think Ramsey County working with Ramsey County is a tactic. There's a resource there. I think as the idea of exploring the consistent signage, I think that gives us our walking papers right there. And then we need to, okay, as we start creating, it's okay, who can we go to and start getting some information? We could meet with Ramsey County. Again, that's a tactic would you agree, Craig?
Yeah, this is a big step. I mean, I think what we need to do is take a little nibble on this and say, let's look at what we have, let's look at what is feasible to do, and then maybe next year you look at what it takes to get there, because
and this was one of the
this sounds like a
long-range
little thing,
goals.
but it's a
Yeah, no,
big
it
thing.
is.
We have lots and lots and lots of signs, and it's expensive, and I just want to know, where are we, and what are the things that we can do, and maybe, we'll expound on that next year.
I mean, part of the action on that would be this committee here, individually going out into different parks, photographing what we've got, and bringing that back and having a meeting regarding, okay, here's what I found, because I don't think there's probably any big database that shows us what we've got. And that's the first step, is understanding what we have
Is there
in order to move forward.
Right, and part of the whole signage question, like Craig said, it seems like a simple thing, but it is big, because it's a whole branding conversation then, like, we repainted the old signs, but, just getting what kind of signage do we want, and how permanent do you want to make it be, because as soon as there's technology, then something else and we want it to be uniform and have a brand in the parks, and, I don't want to continue to belabor COVID or anything, but when projects get set back, then those conversations stopped, but, when we have big projects like Harvest and Hazelwood and some of those coming up where they're going to involve new signage, we want to make sure that we have that signage conversation, and that would be something we could bring to the group and just say, this is what we're thinking, and then take it the next step with the technology. That's separate from even just what the signs will look like, where we have them. Old signs were the big wood signs, and you put the big posts in the ground. Is that really something we need to do these days? Could we make it more streamlined? And like you said, I've even looked at, they have companies now that have, like, the signs that, change and have readers and things, like you can get a subscription service, and they'll give you alerts for what's going on in the park or upcoming events, and it's just amazing what they can do with signage now that can be changed, so you're not permanently making these signs like our old park signs that had ordinances that had changed, and it was the wrong, in the wrong park hours, but then you had to completely change all the signs, and it was really expensive, where now they can just digitally change. It's fascinating, so.
So maybe let's do this. Let's say that we explore signage. I want to say just something like, we start with saying, what do we have? What do we have? Let's just say that.
Sure.
What do we have? Let's start there. And, because that alone is a reasonable, I think it's a reasonable goal to see what we have.
That's a lot of
Maybe
work
we can
right
talk
there.
about-
Yeah.
And then we talk about, in that meeting, where
What
do we
is it-
go next? 'Cause right now,
Exactly.
we can't say, let's do this, this, and this, because I don't think we have an
Yep.
understanding of where
Right.
we are. So step one,
Explore what we have.
where are we?
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And consistent signage means like, so there, we don't have a different signage at this park, and then a newer park came along, and sometimes you can see when a park was put in, because the sign is different, and just having uniform, consistent signage is definitely a goal, but it's a long-term one, and it kind of goes along with when a project happens, but no,
I would put down, explore and understand current signage within the parks.
Okay, can you say that one more time?
Explore and understand current signage within the parks.
If you don't mind, I'll add parks and open spaces. I'm just gonna, just so, okay.
That's fine.
Does that include trails, Audra?
What about trails? Yeah. Well, and that's where the open space, because a lot of, that's where the trails, like at the Priory and things, and they have markers, old markers that mark with this handwritten map that someone created years and years ago. So just going into those spaces that aren't clearly defined, having good signage, I would argue, is even more important than in a park like Wakefield or something, because you need to know, well, where does this trail go? And have any of you been to the Priory on the trails with the new improvements that we did, that you can get lost in there. It's, but we have the new bridges and the new amenities, so just, we've been talking about what kind of signage an interpretive signage, so you can add that next element of, pollinator habitat or things, so you can get signage that educates and also, creates sense of space and tells people where to go, so. So a lot of different things with signage.
So now I'm going to go out on a real big limb here, and I'm going to say we can eliminate number 10. And my thought behind that is, right now, all of our programming is offered separately from the Parks Department. I think that the pieces that we did earlier with the bike thing is incorporated in us being actively involved up above. And we're not going to be able to create programming this next year. So I think we just need to strike number 10.
But I think it needs to come back. Maybe not this year, but some year. I have so many residents that comment on this to me all the time.
I don't disagree with you, but I don't see, we're looking at goals for 22.
Yeah, and
I don't see it's gonna
not
happen.
this year. Yeah.
Or 23, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
we're looking at 22.
But I don't want us to ever forget that one, because I do feel that our residents are very upset that we don't have them. So I think we should, I know we won't get it because of everything going on in COVID, but let's not forget that one.
Can we replace it with something else that kind of falls in, is there something around budget that we can just have a conversation about, because a lot of it is budget, right, Audra? The reasoning as to why we can't do the programming through us, right?
Chair members of the commission, that was a part of it, but then it was an overall decision that, the city made and kind of took the steps, like with the task forces. And so I know where you're going with that, but I'm thinking maybe that's something we could address with the task force implementation, because I believe in those implementations, that actually is one of the implementations, recommendations, sorry, I'm mixing up my words. Recommendations in those task force recommendations is to look at a way to bring programming back. So that is encompassed, so I think we wouldn't be forgetting it, but making sure to, highlight when we review the recommendations, you'll find that that's in there as one of them. So I don't know, Terry, if that.
Yeah, I know I don't know if you guys have, but I've had several residents say, we need to get stuff back. The kids are getting into trouble and stuff. They need to be able to have stuff and stuff they can afford, not just the expensive programs that a lot of kids can't afford. We don't have our regular softball, baseball, dance, anything like that. And I've heard a lot of people say they really wish we had it back. And I don't, and as being a commissioner and hearing people tell me that, I want to make sure I fight for my neighbors if that's what they want. And I understand this year probably is not a goal, but I don't want to forget it.
Right.
And I'm not saying we should forget it, I'm just saying as a goal for this upcoming year, I don't see that that's something we can't accomplish it. And I don't think we need to be adding more things in. We've got a lot to accomplish here with what we've discussed already. And if we can accomplish what we've already discussed, we've made some significant impact. But in the back of our minds, when we have that opportunity to bring those programs back, I back up to a baseball park. And it used to be great to hear the click of the bat. You don't hear it anymore. But I just don't see that we're going to accomplish that this year. That's my only point.
I was gonna say,
No,
you're thinking something
I'm
over
just,
here.
no, I'm just trying to think, how many do we have?
We remember we have the other one about the Parks and Trail Tour yet, too.
Right,
We do want that.
yep. I mean,
What'd you come up with so far?
5?
I have, we redid number 1. I don't think I didn't still get clear direction on how we're doing with 2 and 3. Are we doing away with 2 and then just changing 3 to say actively,
I think 2, 3,
be
and 4
actively
need,
involved in the special events and
Yeah, we
at
just
the,
did 1 for 2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4 need to be consolidated, and somebody
Yep.
needs to come up with something that they'd like. I've already done my share.
yeah. I have down, say that the commission will be actively involved and I will call them, instead of special events, I had community outreach, because that encompasses a lot more than just the special events. There's also all the other community outreach events, and they could also, we work with public safety on a lot of the initiatives that they do, so that would also be a way if the commission wanted to attend some of those and be actively involved in the bigger community outreach events. And then I took out the programming needs of actively aging and just said that it was for all ages. So that's really 1, 2, then we have 3, 4, because 6 is my 4 now. 7, so that would be 5, 6, 7. I have 7 and then 8 with the bus tour, if we take out 10.
I'm good with that. And I think of the final goal should be that we actually have a written report at the end of the year that details what we did on each one of the points.
That's what we're doing. That is a requirement.
Yep, it's kind of.
That's what we're doing right now. We're gonna look at these and say, we did these, we didn't do these are our new ones. But, so that is already a requirement.
Yeah.
But,
And then we'll finalize these goals at February, and then we will pull together an annual report of what happened in 2020.
what I think we should do too is, you're gonna put them together, and then maybe next time when we have them all, I want a priority, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or whatever, and say, and then assign, I don't know, meeting dates or something to do, so that they don't slip through the cracks. But
Yeah. Yep, so what I'll do with this is take my notes, and again, I may not get it all right, but take this, bring it back to you at the February meeting. So we won't finalize them till the February meeting, so then you can go over them again, and you might think of something when you're not here tonight, something might occur, and there'll be more discussion at the next meeting. So you don't have to have them finished tonight, but just,
Can you put them together and then send them out to us, say next week or the week after, so that we can review them?
Sure.
Make suggestions, send them back, and then by the time February comes, maybe we've had some further input, and we can have them further scripted and ready to go by February.
are there any of these that we want to do February? I mean, I think that's a reasonable question too.
I was thinking, if you're amenable to it, would be the review of the master plan is what I think is great right out of the
Yes.
gate for February.
Yes,
Yep.
perfect.
And then just a reminder.
Agreed.
If I send these out next week in between meetings, if you have questions or email me, but remember not to hit reply all, because if you hit reply all, then it violates open meeting laws. So just always just email me directly, and I can share the information. But just, we can't have the back and forth dialogue, and then I'll email the person back directly with their question, but then I'll bring that
Okay.
in February.
Let's move on to unfinished business, the Goodrich Park improvements.
Okay, thanks, Chair, members of the commission, and I don't necessarily have to, I do have stuff on the computer if you want to see it, just a review of the plans so far. You know, we brought it in front of you to get approval for what we're going to do at Goodrich as far as the parking lot, the shelter, and the project there. But I wanted to give you, it's kind of an update, but is there anyone, if you would like, I can put up the information for review if you'd like to see it.
Yes, please.
You did not get in the packet. This is what Goodrich looks like. Oh, I scrolled up too quickly. The slide here is what Goodrich looked like, you know, to date. This is what it looks like. We had put in the city's first and only so far universally designed playground that's accessible. And we put this in Goodrich Park, but as you can see, there's no parking for this playground. The parking is up on the other end of the park by the ball field complex, and it was always the goal to put in a parking lot there. And it also eased the traffic on that street, because a lot of the residents, you know, just have had issues from when it was put in, just as far as the double up parking on the streets and issues. And so our project for this year it started last year, and now it's coming to fruition now, is to put in a parking lot. And it also, I'll scroll down here so you can see, this is the plan. These are the plans that I brought before the commission just to show you the designs, and it involves the 20-stall parking lot. And on the other side, if you saw, we have an ADA accessible satellite that's there, but it's right in front of somebody's house, right down by the street, and it's an eyesore, and it wasn't really accessible to get to it. It wasn't the easiest. So there's an enclosure now that's up by the picnic shelter that would be added, and then there's trail connection to the playground itself, so it's so much more accessible for everyone. And then there's also going to be the street lamp in the parking lot, so for safety. And if you see on the bottom right-hand corner, there will be a berm there, so the lights from cars aren't going to go directly into the neighbors' homes, but it will add some security to that park, because that was a concern of neighbors. It's just things that were happening down in that very dark corner of the park and the playground after hours. And there were even people that were driving up into the park because they didn't want to park on the streets. So the parking lot should alleviate much of those concerns and make the whole playground area much more accessible. The picnic shelter will have electricity, which so many of ours don't in our system. We're slowly trying to replace those picnic shelters and add some that, you know, so someone can plug in a crock pot or anything. So it's not just a simple shelter. And then there'll be a drinking fountain. We'll have some more benches, so there's more seating around the playground in that area. And they'll be planting, you know, there'll be a whole landscape plan where they'll be adding trees, because the trees that were currently there on the previous slide, almost all of those were ash. So where the parking lot was, we'll be taking out ash trees. So it's not like we're removing trees that we would have wanted to stay there. They're going to be coming down anyway. And then do some stormwater mitigation. So that was the plan. And then we did an open house with the neighbors that were directly live by the park, and this is in their front yard. And there was some lively discussion, but at the end of it, and these are all comments that we heard during the 2 hours we were there, they were able to write their notes on. You can see a picture of the board and just give their comments. But overall, when you got through, some neighbors just didn't want the playground there at all, but the playground's there. It's been there since 2017. It's staying there. So what can we do to make things better? And the design of the parking lot itself and the shelter and stuff, they liked that. They liked it, other than they had wanted it to be on North St. Paul Road maybe, so it wasn't right by them. But that wasn't feasible. Even in the early days, you know, public safety said that's just, to put a parking lot on that busy road where it would need to go, it just wasn't, they would never be okay with that for safety reasons. So we did the public process and came to the Parks Commission, and you all recommended the changes. And so now we went full forward, and now all the specs and the design and everything is ready and the bidding documents, and we're ready to go. So we will be going to the city council on the 23rd, so next Monday, to get permission to go out to approve the specs and the design plans and to go out for bid. And if it is approved, then we will be putting out the ad for bid, and they were due February 14th, so February 14th is when the bids are due, and then we will award the winning bid at the following city council meeting, and the work is scheduled to be done on or before August 18th this summer, so it's moving along quickly.
So it's basically everything on that list except for the playground, because that's already been done, right?
Yes, they installed the playground first, but nothing else. So right now it's a playground with no parking lot or no shelter, and but with the ADA accessible stall, they're also, I did not know that they did these. They have changing tables that you can get in satellites. So because that was one thing people said, that parents with diapers were in the street. I mean, these were concerns the neighbors had. So we even looked into making sure we could either add a diaper changing station in the enclosure, or to put it, get the satellite with it. And right now at this point, we went with getting a satellite that has it. So, if something got vandalized or it didn't work out, we could just, swap out or work with a company versus having to put that amenity in if it, didn't work out. But
What about the no parking on Ripley? Are we able to implement that or no?
that would be, again, after things were done. That's not something in parks that we could do, but we could explore that with Public Works. But there have to be special circumstances, and they could look into it. But there was, for every person that wanted no parking on Ripley, then there were people that wanted it, but just for like their friends and family and relatives, or for them, kind of thing. So we just, for transparency reasons, we just put all the comments up, but kind of went back and forth. Some people are like, well, no, we want it maybe just on one side, no parking at all, except maybe people even asked for special passes. So they, these all came up in the conversation, so we addressed them, and it doesn't mean we won't in the future. But at the core of it, everyone liked the plan of the parking lot, that it wasn't too big, and it was that they had the security light, and there will also be a light in the picnic shelter too, a dome underneath, just so people aren't going up to the picnic shelter and hanging out. And, the light will be camera ready, and in the parking lot, just because we're planning ahead for needs for, our climate adaptation plan, the parking lot will be EV, charging station ready. So if we get to the point where we get grant or funding to put in a electrical charging station there, we'll have the conduit and whatever we need there to put that in if we so choose, so.
Did they agree to the little library exchange?
Again, these were just
ideas?
These are just comments from the neighbors. I mean,
I really like that. I think that would be
Yeah.
kind of nice to have if it's not too expensive, to add quite a few of our parks.
Yeah, usually the ones in our parks are.
So we do have some now?
We do, yeah. We have one out at Edgerton by the Gardens. We had one at Pleasant View. It got vandalized so many times that it was gone. We had one at Maple Crest. So, but it's not that we put them in. Usually residents ask permission, or it's a scout project or something, and people ask, can we put these in? And we usually say yes.
Great.
I don't think we've ever said no, so. Yeah, so again, we'd brought this to you before, and you had approved you recommended the plan, but I just wanted to let you know that we are going to council on Monday, and if it's approved, then it will be moving right along. And as far as cost, for this portion of Goodrich Park improvements, we had made a request in the CIP for $500,000 in funding for that. And currently, the cost estimate from the consultants came in right around $365,000, so that's good news. But again, you never know with bidding environments. We'll have to see how it goes. So just wanted to update you on that's where we are in the process. Any questions?
Thank you. Doesn't look like we have any visitor presentations. Commissioners, do you have anything to say tonight? I was just wondering, Audra, how the bird feeder's doing at the Nature Center. Have you heard?
Oh, it's doing great.
And
Sorry.
then I'm wondering, I had neighbors over last Thursday, and I wasn't aware of this. Is this Do you know, I had bird feed on my counter, and they're like, oh, you're not supposed to feed birds in Maplewood. Is that true?
No,
Okay, yeah.
I think there had been a ban with maybe with the avian bird flu once upon a time, but that.
She said it was something to do with the deer, and if you did, you had to have your bird
Oh,
feed.
I
Well,
read
you wanna
something
make-
like that,
oh,
yeah.
You did,
I read it in one of the newsletters, I think, about, it was related to the deer, though, I believe.
It was to make sure that your bird feeders are at least 6 feet off the ground.
6 feet, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
Ours are-
our scout made sure happened, so.
Well, and I just want to, we have ours up, but I
Now,
just
with
wanted
the
to make
snow,
sure.
with the snow, we actually dug around the snow out, because with all that snow, we were like, but,
Okay, so you can have bird feeders, they just need to be up 6 feet.
yep, at
Okay.
least 6 feet off the ground, yep.
Anything else, anyone? All right, staff presentation?
Sure. I'm just giving you a few updates. They're going to do the Winter Gnome Challenge. Some of you may remember that the Friends of Maplewood Nature did this last year. And they're doing it again because it's just a really cute, fun thing. And we got really good feedback, and people really liked it. So it's going to be the week of February 12th through the 2 weeks through the 12th through the 26th out at the Nature Center along the trail. And they are going to hide these little gnomes that the kids had made, and these little and then people can go out and you take a picture of your favorite gnome and you can submit it for a prize drawing. And they actually got Snake Discovery. I don't know how many of you are aware of that really cool place. It's right by the Nature Center. It's just really, really cool place to go into, and you can win tickets to go there or a $5 Dairy Queen gift card. It's just a little something to keep it interesting, but you just have to go out and take a picture with yourself by it and submit it. So that's just all Friends of Maplewood Nature, and we're just going to help promote it. And so just something fun.
My daughter's 7. She was 6 last year. We went and did this. She made me go around 3 times because she wanted to see. And then you send in the pictures, and then they put it on their Facebook page. She was over the moon when she saw that they chose one of her pictures. So,
Oh,
I mean, it's
awesome.
definitely a worthwhile thing, and it's super cool to see the kids running around trying to search for any pop of color to find a little gnome. So it's a cool
Yeah.
event.
I was surprised how many people, they loved it, and there are a lot of grandparents with grandkids or moms, and one of the moms I think was way more excited than anybody else to find the gnome, so I think it's something fun for anybody to do. And then I also wanted to share that because our last photo contest was so popular, we're doing a winter nature photo contest as well. So throughout January, you can visit any of our parks, preserves, open spaces, and take a nature shot and submit it for prizes. And actually, the Friends of Maplewood Nature are doing this with us this year. They're going to be part of it. And so we separated into 2 age categories this time, because last time it was just pictures, but we thought it would be nice to do one for kids and then do one for 13 and up. So, and if you win in each category, there'll be a $30 gift card, and the Friends of Maplewood Nature donated those, so that was really nice. And there were a little more clarification, only nature photos, and they need to be in Maplewood, because last time I think we had some cool pictures, so some of them weren't in Maplewood, so we want to make it really clear. We just want it to be in a Maplewood Park or Preserve. So we encourage you to go out with your camera and get some good pictures. Other than that is all I have.
All right, anyone want to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Carrie, I forgot as far as the programming, but I do want to mention,
Yeah,
we have a new, the right title would be forestry member through AmeriCorps and Climate Corps. We have a new member out at the Nature Center. She started this week, and she will be staying with us through July, working 25 hours a week. And she'll be helping out with forestry projects, anything with pruning trees, going out and tree inspections and all that. And this is something we were provided. It's no cost to the city. We provided her a workstation and some training, and so it's really nice to have an extra set of hands to deal with all the EAB and oak wilt and all the tree stuff. So we're excited to have her on board.
awesome.
And I might bring her to talk to the group, just to
Yeah,
come and say hi and talk about the things that she's been doing when she's been here a little while. So.
Bring her in next month.
yeah.
Okay.
Right. All right.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned at 7:07.